if you look at the First Amendment, what is more referenced when you grow up than the First Amendment?
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech. But what's funny is the First Amendment doesn't guarantee you any rights. What it does is tells Congress what it can't do. So, to quote the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I can't wait to look to see if the word peacefully didn't exist back then, because they used peaceably.
Huh. Peace. What did it say? Peaceably?
Yeah. Like the ability to be peace.
Right. That's bizarre.
Now, what's funny is there's a few things in there, right? The first thing addressed in the amendments is the law respecting the establishment of religion. Establishment of religion that usually is seen to refer to Anglicanism in England, where the government basically said Henry VIII said everybody has to be Anglican.
Right.
Now, one of the counter things, and I remember being in college and having an English teacher bring this up one time and said, like, there's a separation of church and state in the First Amendment. And it's like, well, no, that actually comes from a letter in 1808 in the Danbury Baptist Church. So we didn't actually see this pop up until about 17 years later, and it was a letter that Jefferson wrote about it. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions about the First Amendment. The second is that you are protected in speech from anybody. Nope. It just says Congress cannot inhibit your ability to freedom of speech.
Right. And it doesn't say that you have freedom of speech either, right? Yeah.
It's just saying Congress will not reduce that. And we have seen cases of Congress doing that, though.
Like, yeah, how when we talked about Mr. Adams, we talked about the Alien Seditions Acts. Like, how did those get passed then?
Yeah.
I guess they didn't hold up for very long. But.
Yeah, it's just, exactly. It's I've often wondered what happened if that was, like, that's hard to challenge in court. And I mean, don't forget, the only part of the Alien Sedition Acts that existed for any amount of time was really the foreign agents. I mean, the Sedition Act was dead very, very quickly. I mean, never had a chance to be challenged. Also, it was before judicial review. So it's before the Supreme Court had the authority to rule things constitutional or unconstitutional. I have a feeling that would have been ruled unconstitutional virtually immediately.
Yeah, right.
But I think one of the interesting parts, and this comes to the discussion that affects all our lives, is the discussion of, like, misinformation, regardless of what the misinformation is used for or which side of the aisle it's on. Other countries don't have a freedom of speech requirement, so their parliaments can make laws that abridge the freedom of speech. We don't in the U.S., so it's kind of like this. With freedom, naturally comes variability and naturally comes disorder. And it's, well, how much are you willing to trade? And the founding fathers at this time, there wasn't this idea of, like, nobody would ever lie. Sometimes when you talk to people and you read this stuff, there's this idea like the founding fathers were like, oh, they would never lie to each other. Nobody would ever make anything up. These were honorable men. They were, but they also, called each other hermaphroditical of character.
Yeah.
They would absolutely make stuff up. I mean,
yes, they would.
Concepts
they did.
They did all the time. So but that was seen as a trade-off, that we were going to lose some of that security, but they viewed it as a necessary sacrifice to ensure that the people would be free to speak. So the First Amendment, it's been referred to over its life as the bulwarks of democracy. Is that this idea that if you can engage in free dialogue and you can practice your faith freely and you have the ability to access to the press and this ability to peacefully assemble and all petition your government, that is really the foundation of what allows a democratic republic to operate. This idea of free-flowing information without worrying about being abridged by the government. But kind of like one more last thing to hit on the First Amendment is that in its whole entirety, it was really there to stop governmental censorship. Like, that was its number thing, is to say the government can't censor you, whether through stopping you from petitioning the government, stopping you from protesting, stopping you from being able to practice your faith, or because that's where people talked a lot, right? Like, that's where a lot of ideas were shared. And above all else, stopping you from being able to speak as you please. So it was really this idea of like, we're going to stop governmental censorship. And that's really what the First Amendment is.
Anything more to say on this first one here? Or?
Oh, I think we can go for the First Amendment for years. No, I was going to try.
You're saying I need to censor you? Is that what's going on? Doesn't say anything about me censoring you.
No, it doesn't. You are not Congress, Kyle. You could censor me.
Mute. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, the show's ratings just went through the roof after you muted him.